Mine network price prediction, why top investors are getting in now, Binance Labs insight. Crypto investors are always on the lookout for the next 100x coin, but this is where things get really interesting. Because Mine network combines AI, privacy, and has Binance Labs as an investor, and that's no coincidence. In this video, you'll find out why this coin is already being celebrated as the holy grail of cryptography. The price prediction for 2025 could completely change your perspective on this project. Have you ever heard of the coin that's considered the holy grail of cryptography and could ultimately revolutionize both crypto and AI? That's exactly what Mine network is doing. And that's precisely why the biggest investors like Binance Labs are taking a very close look at it right now. Welcome to 10x Crypto, your channel for honest, data-driven altcoin analyses. So what exactly is the Mine network? It relies on fully homomorphic encryption, or FHE for short. This means that data can remain completely encrypted while computations are still performed on it. That's obviously a huge difference compared to regular blockchains. With those, you have to decrypt the data first in order to process it. And of course, that's always a risk for hacks or data leaks. The goal of Mine network is clear: to build a zero-trust infrastructure. Or put more simply, secure data transmission that can't be cracked, not even by quantum computers. That makes the coin especially exciting, namely the combination of artificial intelligence and Web3. Because AI agents can securely work with assets, execute smart contracts, and exchange data without anyone being able to see sensitive information. So what makes Mine network so unique? First, it solves the biggest problem of blockchains: privacy and security. Second, it creates the AI foundation for decentralized economies that could move trillions in the future. Third, the technology is already live. There is an alpha mainnet and already over 1 million wallets that have tested the system. Technically speaking, the Mine network combines FHE, that is fully homomorphic encryption for encrypted computation, proof of stake for a secure and efficient consensus mechanism, and AI hubs, which are platforms where various AI agents collaborate, ultimately without revealing any data. But this isn't just a white paper dream, it's already working now. And now comes the important part: the investors. Binance Labs, he says, invested $10 million in 2024. In addition, there's hashtag capital and big brain holdings. When these top investors get involved, it's not just for fun, they're betting on the potential of the Mine network, AI, and data privacy, because they might be able to take a leading role in the future. Why is this worthwhile for them? Because according to experts, the market for AI and blockchains could grow massively by 2030. Currently, Mine network has only a $14 million market cap. That's truly a low cap. If even a fraction of the market flows in, a multiplication in value is certainly possible here. So it's definitely better to stay tuned until the end to see realistic price scenarios. But before we dive into the analysis, grab yourself another coffee and leave a like for me. And if you want to support me, become a 10x supporter on YouTube. That way I can stay neutral and keep making analyses for you. Thank you for your support. But attention, a disclaimer. My channel is not financial advice, it's purely for informational purposes. Let's get to it. Market cap. As mentioned, the market cap is $14 million. This is true low cap territory. For comparison, other projects under 100 million are considered extremely small. The advantage here, of course, is that enormous growth is possible, especially if the market turns bullish and many people recognize the opportunities, so definitely a strong 9 here. So what about the circulating supply? Only 22% of the tokens are currently in circulation. This is a small risk because quite a few tokens could still enter the market, but that's normal for most new coins as well. Still, you have to be careful because it is, of course, a risk. That's why in this area only a 4. Now let's move on to the roadmap. The roadmap is clear and transparent. The testnet has been completed, the mainnet is live, and new hubs for AI and data privacy have already been launched. Important milestones have always been met so far, which is definitely impressive. That's why there's also a strong 8 here. Next up would actually be the team. The team consists of experienced developers with backgrounds in AI and cryptography. Of course, that's a strong combination. They also have support through Ethereum grants and are part of the Chainlink build program. So that definitely inspires confidence. A strong 8 in this area. Let's move on to the narrative. The narrative is extremely strong. A coin that combines privacy, AI, and Web3 while everyone is talking about data protection and AI because of course there are also problems with it. Mine Network really hits the spirit of the times. A strong 9. What problem does Mine Network actually solve? Of course, it's extremely important that it solves a problem, and the problem is clear. Data on blockchains hasn't really been private so far. Mine Network ultimately solves this with their encryption, a solution that will become indispensable in the age of AI. A strong 9 in this area. So, how sustainable is Mine Network? FHE is energy intensive, sometimes up to 1000 times faster, yes, and more computationally demanding than standard blockchains. But through optimizations like Lumos, work is being done on this. It's not a perfect system yet, but it's another step forward. Here in this area, a 6. So does it actually have investors? Mine Network has raised $13 million. Among the investors are heavyweights like Binance Labs and #Capital. That of course secures funding and trust. A strong 9. So what about the competition? Direct competitors are Und, Phoenix, Summer and Sunscreen. You probably really don't know any of them. However, Mine Network sets itself apart with its restaking layer, AI, and its reliance on proof of stake. So a small but exciting advantage. Here in this area, a 7. And if you want to see more altcoin analyses like this one, check out the 10x universe. I've put it in the video description. And for next weekend, I found 2 altcoins that are still completely under the radar. I don't know why either, but they're still not on many people's radar. If you don't want to miss them, subscribe to my channel now and activate the bell so you won't miss out. Now let's move on to marketing. 1 million members on Twitter. Campaigns like Citizen-Z naturally ensure a strong reach. That's why this area also gets a strong 8. So how simple is the idea? Well, FHE does sound very technical at first, you really have to say that. But in the end, it's actually simple because data remains private even when it's being processed. So I think that's something everyone can understand. Still, the overall concept is quite complex, which is why it only gets a 6. So what does the long-term vision of Mine Network actually look like? The goal is a secure AI economy where agents can work together, all of course in compliance with data protection regulations. That's a huge vision, but of course the vision is extremely important, relevant and strong in the long term, which is why it gets a 9 in this area. So what about the tokens actually? Are they deflationary? There are no burn mechanisms, which is of course suboptimal. But they do have a max supply, which is limited to 1 billion tokens. That's definitely a positive thing. That protects against endless inflation. So in this area, only a 5. Then what about the FTV actually? In the end, it's around 64 million. Meaning, of course, because not that many tokens are on the market yet. But it's still all completely within reason. That's why they also get a strong 8 here. Then next point, what about the volume? So basically, how is it being traded? The trading volume is actually higher than the market cap, but it still shows huge trading interest, which is extremely strong. That's why it's a 10 as well. Then how was the initial token distribution actually? The tokens were distributed fairly, 40% for the ecosystem, 25% for the community, 20% for investors, and 15% for the team. The team and the investors also have lockup periods which prevents quick sales. In this area, a solid 7. Then what about the top coin holders? The largest wallets hold less than 10%. Of course, that reduces the risk of manipulation and is definitely an extremely positive thing. Here, a solid 7. Then what about the utility? The token is used for gas fees, voting rights, staking, and access to hubs. That naturally creates real demand, so in this area, a strong 8. Next, how strong is the Mine Network community? Over 1 million followers, high activity, strong engagement on Discord. They are strongly positioned here. Of course, the Mine Network thrives on an active community. Here, a strong 8. And by the way, are you also a holder of Mine Network? Are you a fan? Then feel free to leave a comment. #Mine Network. It's important so others become aware of the project. Extremely important. So what kind of events are there? In the coming months, new hubs for AI and in healthcare are coming, so it's extremely exciting. There will also be new conferences and new partnerships. Exciting catalysts are also planned for the future, including for the price, of course. A strong 8 in this area. You know what actually surprised me the most about Mine Network? That it's not just some random low-cap altcoin. This is a project that uses the holy grail of cryptography and solves something that others have been working on for ages. Let's move on to the summary. Market cap is extremely low, which of course means massive potential. The roadmap is strong, the investors are strong, Binance Labs for example. That naturally gives the project a certain level of credibility. The narrative, AI, privacy, Web3 is extremely relevant. And best of all, the community is already huge and active. That makes it an extremely strong coin. On my 10 times ranking list, it stands at 76.9%. This is clearly a solid altcoin with potential. Not perfect because of course the token isn't perfect yet, but it's already strong. My clear statement is, Mine Network is currently one of the most exciting low-cap altcoins in the AI privacy sector because it also takes on something completely different, a totally different narrative compared to other AI altcoins. But of course, the risk in this initial phase remains. The upside is enormous, the possibilities are huge, but of course the risk is also enormous. If you want to know whether I might already have Mine Network in my personal portfolio, then check out DTNX Elite. You'll get insight into my personal portfolio and much more. Take a look at the tutorial up here, it's all explained best there, or check out the video description. Do you know what the most exciting question is after every analysis? Of course, where could the price really go in the next few years? That's what we're going to look at now. Let's start as always with the bear case, with the bear scenario. So how does Mine Network look in this regard? Imagine the entire crypto market is rather weak. Everything is, let's say, stagnating, Bitcoin is struggling, altcoins remain in the shadows for a long time, and in such an environment, it's clear that low-cap altcoins also don't grow quickly, or rather they grow slowly. We're talking about 10 to 20 cents. Then there's the normal scenario. Imagine the market develops solidly. Institutional money flows into the narrative, AI becomes more and more mainstream, and privacy is especially important. Here we're talking about 30 to 50 cents. Let's move on to the optimistic scenario. What if the next bull run comes now, really kicks off in 2026, especially for altcoins? What if AI coins become the new narrative again? What if in the end they have a massive cycle? Then Mine Network could quickly come into focus. And then price targets of $1 to $2 would theoretically be mathematically possible. Now let's move on to the very optimistic scenario. Now things get a bit more extreme. The entire crypto market explodes massively. We're heading into directions that have been unthinkable until now. AI, privacy coins when they become indispensable infrastructures. In that case, we're talking about price targets of $3 to $5. Now let's move on to the vision for 2030. Where could they be in 2030? Imagine AI and blockchains merging together. Mine Network becomes the standard for secure encrypted data in the AI economy. Then we're no longer talking about $1, but about prices of $30. Over 30. That would be an absolute game changer. And by the way, if you're interested in Mine Network, not every exchange offers all altcoins, so I'll link the exchange where you can find Mine Network in the pinned comment below. You'll also get a bonus when you sign up. The bonus is exclusive for 10 times members, so take a look at everything below. Now let's move on to the chart analysis. What would I do now? Would I buy it? Would I sell it? Would I wait? All of that right now. Yes, welcome to the chart analysis for Mine Network. Maybe some information first. For the chart analysis, I use TradingView, and I've developed my own indicator. Actually, by now it's 2. I have one for dollar cost averaging, so I can get the best entry points for dollar cost averaging, and during the altcoin season, also for trades that might only last a few weeks. Maybe even a few months. It really depends on the altcoin season. So what does the indicator do? I've designed it to be as simple as possible for myself. The entire indicator calculation runs in the background, and here you simply see the result, which makes it uncomplicated for me. No overly complicated indicators. By the way, I use this indicator in my 10 times Elite. You can check out the 10x Elite if you like. You'll find all the information in the video description. In any case, this would be a point where I would have looked for an entry. And here would be a point where I might have taken partial profits. Those are the kinds of possibilities I have with the indicator in MetaWek. So here, if you had an entry point around here, it would be about 50%. Exactly, so what does it look like right now? As I said, we had a good entry point here, and at the moment things have moved up, since the Federal Reserve has now lowered interest rates, which is a positive signal for altcoins. At the moment we're rather back in a slightly overbought area. So as I said, for me this is actually not an entry point right now. I would wait until we have another dip, until we land down here again, until my indicator flips to green, and then I would get in. Now that we've analyzed Mine Network together, here's another exciting AI altcoin. It has a similar narrative, but is still quite different, and could have massive potential. Why? Let's take a look ourselves. Have fun with this and see you in a moment.